people around the world take to the streets against the lockdown measures, Denmark announces a solution to this, and we answer the questions from our members. Well, what we feared is actually happening. Now, people like me warned about this weeks ago when governments around the world were trying to consider various options when it comes to these lockdown policies. Some countries went really strict early on. Some countries went kind of relaxed, and like the UK, we've shut down the economy, but on a social level, it's almost impossible for the police to monitor every single individual. So it's a bit of a mess. Now, some countries, people are losing patience, and they're taking to the streets. I'm sure some of you have already seen in the United States, where some people are coming out and they're not happy about the lockdown measures and everything else. That's not a surprise. That's America. Germany, the very, very, civilized Germany, who usually just do what the government will tell them to do, unlike, America, where people are pro-freedom. Even in Germany, people are losing their minds. Yes, we're now seeing on the streets of Germany, people are now protesting against the lockdown measures in Germany. To be fair, when it comes to the numbers, the people losing their lives and new cases, Germany is doing quite well. And I think this is exactly why the citizens are judging their government, saying, why are we taking it too far? But it's not the only place. Cities across Brazil, so hundreds of people take to the streets. And this is mainly due to the economic shutdown. Canada, again, another movement that they kind of slammed this policy as martial law. India also saw massive movements of migrant workers against an extension of the current lockdown. Israel also saw an issue on the streets. Northern Ireland also saw protests against the closure of graveyards. And Lebanon, they continue to see anti-government protests anyway. Now, I can assure you, this is only the beginning. And all governments, including the British government, need to be very careful. Firstly, in defense of Boris Johnson's cabinet, they didn't even want this sort of lockdown from the beginning. They were pushed into this by the media, by the likes of Piers Morgan and everybody else. The medical advice was different. They were supposed to be going to delay the whole spread and then bring it down and then have a bit of a shutdown-ish for like a couple of weeks. Now it's a mess. So all governments need to be careful about this, because eventually we're going to pass this phase. Eventually we're going to defeat this virus. But the consequences after this, the mess that this has created, is going to be quite tough to clean up. So every single prime minister and president across the world will be judged by this. Denmark have seen what's happening around Europe and around the world, and they've decided to actually change the policy because they think that the numbers are going down. So they're going to slowly lift the lockdown measures.
Some of the restrictions last week. The students in primary schools, in kindergartens and nurseries are now back. And tomorrow, on Monday, we're going to lift some other restrictions. So, for example, dentists are going back to work, beauty clinics are going back, the hairdressers are going back, small businesses are opening up.
And why did you decide to ease these things before others? What is it specifically about those early restrictions that you've lifted?
Well, first of all our key indicators are pointing in the right direction. If we look at the number of people in hospital, the number of people in intensive care, the number of patients on ventilators, these numbers have been stable or have been coming down the last 2 weeks or so. So we're definitely not out of the woods yet, but we are moving in the right direction. And we can't stay in a lockdown forever. So this decision about the schools and the primary schools and the kindergartens is based on scientific advice to the government as such. Several models have been presented to the government, and this was the one which was chosen.
There are two groups of people who are arguing when it comes to how and when we should lift the lockdown measures. There is one group who think it will happen when the numbers go to basically zero. Okay. And then the other group who, just like Denmark and some other countries, who think as long as the numbers slowly flattening and then go down, and as long as our healthcare system has capacity, that's fine. lift the measures. And then that's what's happening in the UK right now, whereas the new cases aren't really going up massively anymore. There's a massive capacity when it comes to our healthcare and the NHS. And this is actually part of the 5 tests for Boris Johnson's government. And they have said in the next 3 weeks, if this continues going well, they will start to lift these measures. But again, be careful, Boris, how you do it. Now, if you're a member of our YouTube channel, obviously you get a lot of perks and benefits, exclusive access. One of the perks is that you get to ask direct questions on our membership page every week, and I answer your questions directly on our video, usually on Mondays. So let's go to some of the questions that have been sent to us by our members. We have Henry Collins, who says, what do you think the impact of this pandemic will be on President Trump's re-election chances? That's a good question. President Trump was doing really well just before obviously the whole situation, because firstly everything's going well in America, the economy is doing well, and his approval rating was high, and his opponent, at the time, was going to be between Joe Biden and Bernie Sanders, but now Joe Biden. This situation is actually quite interesting because, as we just mentioned, all presidents and prime ministers need to be careful because it could literally change what's going on with their government. For now, Trump's approval rating is still, steady. It's not bad, but it's still early days. In the next couple of months, we'll see how that changes, if it does. But again, it's Joe Biden. Trump's going to win. So, Alan Young says, why are we not using hydroxychloroquine? It works 100%. So we have 2 hospitals in England who are now trialing this. So we are using it. They just want to make sure that it does go well, because it has gone well in certain countries with certain people, but not 100%. And that's why they're trying to kind of make sure that it does work. And hopefully, for once, if Public Health England and the NHS work together and approve this, if it works, perfect. Kizzy says, China lied and people died. Should the government cut ties with China? Well, I've argued for this. I mean, not completely cut ties, but we have to rethink our relationship with China. We can't really treat them as economic allies anymore, like we did before. And there are a lot of questions that they need to answer. So definitely, I'll essentially cut everything up until they come back and explain what they did and apologize and, make it up to us. Trevor says, is the media making this more of an issue to cause mass panic? Yes and no. Yes, as in the media does this with everything. They turn everything into a dramatic situation. Even if it is dramatic, they just make it worse than it is. Obviously, this whole situation is serious, but serious in a way that it just required serious medical advice and focus from that perspective. That didn't mean that it needs serious drama from the journalistic perspective. Didn't help. Absolutely didn't help. Again, people like Piers Morgan and others, they're not really helping the situation. Steve says, what has happened to Dominic Cummings? There's been no mention of him since he was self-isolating. Yeah, there has. So he got back to work last week, and they actually showed him going to work with his packed lunch, which was, if you haven't seen it, go on Twitter and find that picture. It's hilarious. Yeah, I mean, he's back. They've been talking about him, but obviously he's not a politician, so they're not going to interview him or they're not going to show him all the time. But yeah, he's at work now and he's doing well. Sozzy says, can you see any country devaluing their currency as a way of kickstarting their economy? This is good because I mentioned this when I was interviewing Toby Young. The fascinating part about post this situation is that each country, some countries have left-wing governments, some countries have right-wing governments, some countries have Angela Merkel, and it depends how each country approaches this. And it will be fascinating to see which approach works better. Because obviously until now we have people who are socialists who theoretically say socialism works. You have people, free marketeers, say, trust me, it does work. This is a good test for the world because most countries are in the same situation economically after this. This will be a good test, a good battle between big government intervention or free market monetarism. And I believe the latter will win. So, but I think, yes, there are some countries that will definitely do that to the currency. We'll see how that goes. Marianne Ken says, will you stand for Mayor of London? Please, please, pretty please. I have... The reason this whole thing started, and me standing for Mayor of London, is because of my name. People thought it's a good idea to have Mayor Maya. So... I have actually started to be tempted about this, to do something, because now that the election is delayed until next year, I'm tempted to run as an independent, not necessarily to win, because that's not going to happen, but the current establishment parties and candidates that we have in London are very boring and complacent, just dull, terrible. They're not talking about the real issues, and I'm sure they mean well, including Sean Bailey, the Conservative candidate. It's just not getting to the people. So what I really hope, wish someone could do, if not me, is to have someone as a candidate, to just start a conversation about real issues. I'm not saying I'm running, by the way. I'm just saying hypothetically. T-Nap says, I can't get into my head, I think, misspelling, why China pays so little money into the World Health Organization. How come? Well, firstly, the WHO should not exist. The whole structure is messed up. The way each country and member contributes to it is messed up. America and the UK pay a lot more than any other country. Why? Seriously. It doesn't really work. If it's based on research, the money going to their scientists to do research, as I said before, each country could fund their own scientists individually. If it's based on international health regulation and guidelines, no, doesn't work. Don't do it. So, yeah, I actually don't know the answer to why China paid so little money, but it's China. Norseman says, hi Maya, do you think the aggressive political interview has had its day and becoming boring? It is terrible. It shouldn't happen, but it does, and it's not going anywhere. Because while people complain about it, they still watch it. The ratings go up. We've seen, for example, Cathy Newman interview with Jordan Peterson. Everybody agrees that was a terrible interview. Yet, that interview is one of the most watched interviews on Channel 4 ever. And that's the whole point. Like, Piers Morgan is very good at that. Everyone is now complaining about Piers Morgan. But the rating for ITV is going up. And that's all that matters. For them, it's business. So no, it's not going anywhere, unfortunately. Alan says, is it true that the government has formally rejected any form of extended transition period? Yes. So both sides have finally agreed now to the new timetable. Now, in terms of formally, June is the deadline for both sides to agree to any possible extension. Now, if we pass June, no extension, then that's it. That's complete guarantee. At this point, both sides have said that that's fine. We can just negotiate until December. But, still a few weeks to go. It could be dramatic. Golfmat says, can we now afford HS2? Should the money go into rebuilding small businesses and helping the ones who have collapsed and lost jobs? To be fair, even before this situation, we couldn't even afford it. Over £100 billion for a vanity project that, in the name of connecting the north to the south, yeah, that's a lie. In the name of, making things faster, yeah, I mean, if someone is about to get to Manchester from London, 15 minutes quicker, but with a very expensive ticket, yeah, I don't think that's not going to go well. It's a stupid project, and this is a good opportunity. This was a good opportunity right now to cancel it, but the government already confirmed that they're not going to cancel it. They've started the actual the building of the tracks and everything. So, but we're not going to give up, because people like me have been campaigning against it for years, and there's still a bit of hope that we could change the government's mind eventually, and invest that money into the areas that matter, including transport. Relinking northwest to northeast, West Midlands to East Midlands. Do not just help London. Anyway, I'm going to stop ranting now. And I said members of this channel get a lot of benefits, including obviously sending direct questions where I answer on Mondays. If you want to join them, then check out the link in the description or find the join button next to subscribe, or just go on your browser and type in youtube.com/myitc/join. And if you're new to the channel and you enjoy the content, make sure you subscribe and click on that bell next to it so you get notified. We have a daily show at 5:45 p.m. on myitc. I'll see you guys tomorrow with a new video.